Hey everyone, welcome back to the Critic-Verse. Today we're going to discuss the latest episode of Wolfpack, Season 1, Episode 7, titled Lion's Breath, which is the penultimate episode of Season 1. Now, before we get to the breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for weekly breakdowns and reviews of Wolfpack or any other show I may cover on the channel. Now, let's get to the video. We open with a shot of Everett being awakened by a screeching noise, covered in sweat. He checks his hand for a tremor, but he finds a naked Baron in the corner of his room. When Everett addresses him, he drops down into a ball. Everett then says he can help him remember his name, and all the while he's inching closer to Baron with each line. But before he can say Baron's name, Baron growls at him, which causes Everett to retreat a bit, and Baron then disappears. Everett enters his bathroom and looks at his pills, but he decides against taking one. Suddenly he sees Baron in the mirror, but facing away from him instead of towards him like a reflection. But Baron does mimic his actions without looking at him, and then Baron disappears once more, only for Everett to turn around and see Baron snarling at him, then being engulfed in flames and disappears once again. Then reappears walking in the hallway. Everett then follows Baron downstairs. Once downstairs, his front door swings open and Barrett is shown running full sprint at him. And he begins to chase him, and Everett hides behind the kitchen island while Baron paces back and forth. Baron says he can't stop it, almost like he and the wolf are separate entities. Baron tells Everett it wasn't him. As this happens, water rushes down the stairs over a visage of Phoebe's talking corpse, saying that Baron can't stop himself, and that he'll come for the pack if he doesn't like them anymore, and that Baron can always make more wolves. Everett asks Phoebe who's he going to kill next. As she opens her mouth, the only sound that comes out is someone playing the keys on a piano, and it's the same song that Austin was playing in the party episode. Then it transitions from night to day as if Everett was standing in the same spot for hours. And his mom comes downstairs, snapping him back to reality, but moves on as she loses interest in Everett's confusion. Cut to intro. In the next scene at the Briggs residence, Garrett awakens suddenly in his office, gun in hand and silver bullets scattered on the desk. As he admires one of the silver bullets, his attention is diverted to height measurements of Harlan and Luna they made up to age 15. As Harlan and Luna take off without even speaking to Garrett, Ramsey shows up looking to speak to Harlan, but settles for Garrett and walks right in. As Ramsey is surveying his office, he notices he left the silver bullets out on the desk, so he stands in front to cover them. She says she's there to check up on him. Being a parent doing what he did was difficult. Garrett then says he wants a lawyer for Harlan. Ramsey says she knows he had nothing to do with it, but that he doesn't need one, and she'll protect Harlan like one of her own. But she also returns one of the bullets he fired, and he calls it nickel-plated brass, crediting the Lone Ranger for its silver-like appearance. Garrett dumps the bullets in his desk drawer and gets upset. Next, Mr. Navarro drops Danny off by their motel room and tells him to go and get his stuff. They're checking out of this motel, and he'll be there in 10 minutes and not to open the door for anyone but him and Blake. Danny walks to the room but notices that the door is open and the lock is broken off. He calls for Blake multiple times as he walks in and walks on the bloodied carpet, leading to the bathroom, and when he opens the curtain, hard cut to the next scene. Back at Everett's house, Everett is describing his dream to the rest of the pack, saying where he was and where Baron was. They wonder if Baron was actually there, and Everett rejects this. He theorizes that he's in Baron's head, which Luna compares to the pack's actions last week, and Blake agrees, saying that she wanted to rip Garrett's throat out, and those thoughts came from Harlan. Everett theorizes Barron wants them to stop him and possibly change him back, but they have to stop him from killing Austin tonight, and that they can lure Barron and trap him. Ramsey shows up to the crime scene at Blake's motel, uncomfortable with the sight of Phoebe's bikini-clad corpse, wondering why they couldn't cover her up, and shuts the shower curtain. She wants to question Blake, and Zhang says that this isn't their case, but Ramsey believes this is connected to the arson case, somehow. Back at Everett's house, Blake and Everett are making out. Blake remarks she has to go back to the motel because her family is moving into an apartment. Everett proposes driving her there. To Blake's surprise, they even let him take the car. Everett's mom enters, saying that she's working from home and has an abrasive interaction with Blake, and Everett says to give him 5 minutes. His mom questions if Blake is Everett's type, even tells him to go hang in his room to be without distraction. He asks to borrow the car. His mom objects. He repeats himself. She then berates him by telling him to go play video games. Then there's a noticeable change in Everett. His demeanor, voice, and personality, almost like a serial killer in a horror movie. And this visibly intimidates his mother, and to be honest, intimidated me as well. He tells his mother to be nice to him and grabs the keys, but she grabs them too, and the rage in Everett's face increases. She lets go of the keys, and Everett takes off, leaving his mom with a concerned look on her face. Everett is driving Blake to the motel, and he's visibly tense, so Blake takes one of his hands and intertwines them with her own, calming him down just a little. And as they pull up to the motel, it's crawling with cops, and Blake runs out to run into her dad. She asks for Danny, who's playing on his tablet in the car. She blames her dad, who tells him he didn't do anything, and tells her Danny found a body in the bathroom. In the next scene, Luna and Garrett start to argue about Harlan, but Luna says she wants to talk about her other brother, Barron. Luna wants to find where he hides the bodies and also wants to try and change him back, referencing the name myth Garrett brought up last week. Then Garrett brings up another myth about a son being a werewolf after being born after 7 daughters. But then Garrett says the true only cure is death, and then Garrett leaves, he says, to find Harlan. Back at the motel, the medical examiner is taking away Phoebe's body, and Blake wonders why the wolf would bring Phoebe there. Everett says he doesn't know, but that he's going to find Harlan and they're going to figure out what to do. He then gives her a comfort kiss on the side of her head and takes off. Ramsey spots Blake, and Danny squeezes Blake's hand really hard. Blake says to Danny that they know Ramsey from in episode 2 when she came to the parking lot. But Danny notes another point, episode 4 at the parking garage, when he was confronted by the wolf. Blake believes Danny is confused, but Danny probably knows more about this than she does. As Ramsey approaches Blake, Blake's father steps in and brings up a lawyer. Ramsey makes a remark about paying for a lawyer, to which Mr. Navarro mentions how Blake would make a joke like that. Blake says she'll talk as long as nothing happens to Danny. Then a back and forth happens on how much Ramsey will believe on what Blake has to say. Everett and Harlan are at school talking about how to cure Barron, which would need them to kill the werewolf, wait for it to turn human, and then bring him back to life somehow. Everett suggests using maybe CPR, a defibrillator, or even epinephrine, and that he has to be cold. Somehow so cold that his brain won't need as much oxygen, so they could stop his heart, but his brain would still be functioning. Everett then reassures Harlan they're going to get Cyrus out, but that they need to do this first. They figure they could use the morgue's cold storage to trap and freeze the wolf, but they still need to lure it there somehow. In Luna's room, turns out Everett and Harlan figured out how they're going to lure the wolf, but they plan on using Austin as bait, a fact that Luna doesn't like. Garrett and Ramsey revisit the construction site. Ramsey wants to re-examine the scene, and Garrett believes it's because Ramsey is going to connect the arson to the murders that have been happening, due to the specifics of where they found Phoebe's body. But we then transition back to the Briggs residence, where Luna is telling Austin the truth about everything, but he agrees to it anyway. But when Luna asks if he has any questions, he does ask a question, but it's not about any of this. He asks, does Luna actually like him? And she says he knows that she has a crush. Luna hesitates to answer, so Austin reinforces the question. She answers, but he rejects her answer. In this playful back and forth banter that does make me like Austin a bit more as a character, but also hints that there is, or that there could be, something more between Luna and himself. We then cut to the stables where Austin is with Harlan and Everett. They then give Austin a blade that they dipped in melted silver just as a backup plan in case they can't protect him. Then Cody pops up, jokingly saying that he wants a silver dagger too, and turns out he's their epinephrine facilitator this time. Back at the construction site, Ramsey offers info on her dead son. She says that her son died with his father trying to protect him. Her husband was not a perfect man, and Garrett is a better father despite his own children not speaking to him, which meant that he is a good parent. As Ramsey stands frozen, we dive into her head for a flashback, which takes us to the events that Malcolm described in the last episode, after they killed the first wolf, with a little bit of extra information that he didn't say. The wolf's mate that approached the fire team, but what Malcolm didn't mention was that it took the form of a human female and chased them down, killing them off one by one, till it was just Malcolm and 2 other firefighters left. But Malcolm actually sacrifices the other 2 so he can get away. And after the wolf woman kills them both, she lays down as it starts to rain, jumping back to Ramsey in present day. And out of her memory, Garrett is at the door that holds the elevator. He busts the lock and asks to borrow her flashlight, which was a smart move on his part, considering the last thing she did with that flashlight, the last time someone looked down that elevator shaft. But she grabs her gun because her primary weapon is gone now. And they both look down the elevator shaft to see and hear a ton of flies over a lot of dead bodies. The pack then start to put their plan into action. Everett tells Blake they're coming and asks if she's ready. She says that she is, but that she's not doing lion's breath with him. Then turns around and does a quick small one by herself. And when she turns back around and he gives her a look, she says it works and to give her a break. The pair then kiss, but get interrupted when the plan is ready. Luna and Austin head to set the trap. Austin is hesitant. He feels even worse when he's referred to as the prey. He reveals he saw the wolf take Phoebe. The shot from last week's episode with Phoebe's body sliding across the sunroof, but didn't say anything because he didn't think anyone would believe him. Luna says they believe him. Luna then also flirts with Austin, and he jokingly credits it to him offering himself up as bait for the werewolf, which does give him a bit of courage. But we jump back to the construction site where Ramsey and Garrett climb down the elevator shaft, and Garrett helps Ramsey off the ladder, which results in the 2 sharing a sort of tender embrace, just to be brought back to reality by all the bodies. He asks her not to call this in, at least not that soon, to protect Harlan and Luna, but he reasons with her not to do it because the case will get taken over by the homicide department and Ramsey will lose all control over it. Ramsey knows what he's not telling her, but for some reason, she wants him specifically to say it to her. Ramsey then calls Garrett out on the silver bullets and asks if he believes whatever did this is human, and Garrett says yes, but then he alludes to the fact that it's something more. Austin and Luna are on the rooftop waiting for the wolf, who appears on the adjacent roof, but doesn't attack because Austin isn't presented as a threat. So Luna tells Austin to hit her, but Austin can't, and Luna tries to slap Austin around a couple of times to provoke him, but he doesn't. Instead, he kisses her. Interestingly enough, this does make the wolf attack him. I guess Baron doesn't like Austin for his sister. They run, and Austin puts his hood up and locks the door behind him. We then transition to a POV shot from the wolf's perspective as he crosses rooftops just to see someone in a blue hoodie running on the streets below him. He jumps down onto street level and gives chase, but the person is keeping pace and the wolf can't get to him. It's because it's actually Blake in Austin's hoodie and not Austin, which Blake is using her wolf speed to keep away from the beast. She runs into the cold storage close enough for Harlan to know their location and to ready the trap. Into the cooler, Blake and the wolf slide in, and Blake roars and Everett comes in and roars too. The wolf takes a swipe at him, but he catches its hand and matches its strength. Well, only until the wolf grabs him by the throat and lifts him off the ground. Harlan tries to help, but the wolf swats him away. Everett finally says its name after multiple times, affecting the human within, affecting him well enough to drop him. The pack gets out and uses their combined strength to barricade the door. Then they all listen as the wolf heart drops in speed. Baron has changed back, and as they attempt to revive him, they can't find the epi shot, but Austin says he has it, and he approaches, but pulls out the silver dagger and stabs Baron right in the heart. As the pack looks on shocked, Baron screams in pain, and the episode ends. Wow, now that was a good penultimate episode, and I definitely can't wait for the season finale next week. Now, once again, this episode is titled Lion's Breath, which is referencing the yoga technique Everett taught Blake in the first episode as a method of reducing stress and calming down. Now, here are some thoughts I had on this episode. The shot they do in Everett's bathroom where Baron takes the place of Everett's reflection, I think they accomplished this by building the same set reflected, but putting a glass where the mirror should be. Because at first, you can still see Everett's reflection where the mirror should be, but where Barrett is standing, making it appear like Baron is now Everett's reflection, but you can definitely see they're both still there, just in a similarly looking room. Everett sort of has a heel change in this episode, and it sort of mirrors how in Teen Wolf, Scott was acting after Allison broke up with him, and he was feeling the effects of the full moon, like the wolf was taking over him, and he was acting more on anger or on impulse. We now get full confirmation that Ramsey is a werewolf, but that she's also the mother of Harlan, Luna, and Baron. Now in the books, it's quadruplets and not triplets, so we don't know if there could be another sibling or if they're sticking with these three and letting Blake and Everett make up the difference. Also, from next week's trailer, we see that Baron is alive, but who knows what his wolf powers are, or what powers he will have, since each member has a specialty, but we don't know what his would be. Since he bit Blake and Everett, he might be the alpha and have all the powers at once. And also, as to what Ramsey plans, she might be trying to rebuild her pack, and Baron made the new members, but Ramsey is the mama wolf, and it seems like she has her sights set on Garrett as the new papa wolf, praising him for how he raised Harlan and Luna. But also, aside from Ramsey, there's still the mystery of who the arsonist is and who the mysterious caller is. Somehow, I still believe Cyrus is involved in the arson because of how our mains feel about him. They might be trying to subvert our expectations with his involvement. But who knows? He could be innocent and it could be somebody we never heard of. But Cyrus just seems like the most likely suspect, at least to me. Alright, guys, that's all for this week. Next week is the finale, and I can't wait to see how this first season wraps up. See you next time on the Critic-Verse.